All right, everybody, welcome to today's session of Federation Live. My name is Tandalyn Daniel, and I'm the Director of Communications and Member Relations for the Federation of Southern Cooperatives Land Assistance Fund. Today, we will be discussing the Discrimination Financial Assistance Program. But first, I kind of want to set the scene before I introduce my guest, who's a fellow cooperator. Uh, the Federation of Southern Cooperatives is a 56-year-old cooperative association of Black farmers, landowners, and cooperatives. We were built out of the civil rights movement with 22 co-ops seeking fair prices. Our membership is predominantly Black. We deal with, or we help people with uh, cooperative development, land retention, and advocacy. The program that we are going to discuss today falls under the umbrella of advocacy for us, and we advocate on behalf of our membership of Black farmers, landowners, and cooperatives. The Inflation Reduction Act, which came about in 2022 under the Biden administration, the Discrimination Financial Assistance Program, Section 22007, offers up $2.2 billion to eligible producers who feel that they experience discrimination in the FSA farm lending process. And our role in that is we are the organization, or one of several organizations that brought the Black farmer lawsuit, right? So we got out there and we advocated on behalf of about 3,400 Black farmers in that lawsuit. There were a total of 17,000 farmers of color. Our membership represented 3,400 and was seeking a payout for the discrimination that they had experienced. I'm bringing you to that history because this is not a Black farmer lawsuit. There is currently, to our knowledge, no Black farmer lawsuit. This is financial assistance authorized under the Biden administration under the Inflation Reduction Act. What does that mean to you all before I introduce Danny? What that means is the deadline is the deadline. If it were a lawsuit, you would be able to go back and maybe file another motion and do something else. But with financial assistance that we're going to talk about today, you have until January 13th, 2024 to submit your applications. I'm going to hold it right there while I ask everyone on the call to remain on mute if you are not speaking. This is going to be a very conversational style hour that we're going to spend together. Today, it will wrap promptly at 1 p.m. And if you have a question, either raise your hand or put it in the chat, and we will get to that. And right now, I want to introduce you with the Land Extension Project out of North Carolina, right, Danny?
That's
You're
right,
on.
Jacqueline.
Are we frozen? Oh, no.
Yep.
All right. Danny is a longtime technology and digital marketing, production, and strategic consultant. He has run a startup tech company in South Africa and has worked in several different capacities, from activist to policy advisor. He has also served as Director of Advancement and Administration for the Graduate School of Leadership and Development at Eastern University School of Leadership and Development. After several years of volunteer work with the Land Loss Prevention Project, he was brought on board as a consultant for the DFAP program. And right off the bat, I want you to tell all of us a bit about the land loss project.
Sure. Thank you, Tandalyn. So the Land Loss Prevention Project was founded in 1982 by the North Carolina Association of Black Lawyers. and it was to curtail the epidemic loss of Black-owned land in North Carolina. It was then incorporated in North Carolina in 1983. The organization broadened its mission in 93 to provide legal support and assistance to all financially distressed and limited resource farmers and landowners in North Carolina. And since then, land loss prevention projects advocacy for financially distressed and limited resource farmers involves action in three separate areas. That is litigation, public policy, and promoting sustainable agriculture and environment. And that brings us to where we find ourselves with our fellow cooperators spearheading this DFAP program.
Thank you, thank you. So as he just mentioned, they are out of North Carolina, which brings up an interesting point for me. The Federation, we do help all farmers in the states that we're serving for this program. Our focus as an organization is typically on Black farmers. But for this program, the technical assistance, and we are one of the USDA, the Federation is one of the USDA designated cooperators, and the technical assistance that we are providing is in 7 states. We are providing technical assistance in, let me see if I can get this right, Alabama, Georgia, Florida, Louisiana, Mississippi, South Carolina, and Texas. So if you are on this call and you still need help in those states with processing your discrimination financial assistance program application, please reach out to us. We're going to be giving you lots of information and lots of follow-up. But I'm about to take it back to how this hour is going to flow. Danny is going to go over the 10-step application process, and that's hopefully going to take us about 20-25 minutes. Then we will take Q&A. But again, this is a very conversational call here. So if you have questions, please either raise your hand and put them in the chat. I do believe that we have some cooperators and even Federation staff on the line. And as usual, I say it every week, this is a platform primarily for farmers to ask their questions, however, if you got something to add to the conversation, please do. And with that, Danny, I think you have controls and can share your screen.
Okay, thanks, Dana. Let me do that. Okay. Are you seeing the screen there?
Yes, sir.
Okay, very good. So this is when we do this presentation, we've been doing it in obviously many different states, but we often spend about anywhere from 2 to 3 hours doing this presentation. So this is just a small portion of it, and I'm going to try and keep my time to about 15, 20 minutes to allow for as many questions. And what we're doing here is we're going to just dive into actually what the online application looks like. And so let me just get started in here. From the get-go, let me say that, and I hear some background noise. You just want to make sure you're all muted. But from the get-go, one of the most important things to remember is that the United States Department of Agriculture, for this DFAP program, they highly encourage you. In fact, they bold it out throughout the site, and they highly encourage you to use the online application. And there's a number of reasons for doing that, which we'll cover. But one of the primary reasons is that it gives you a very distinct and succinct way of going through the application. There is a tremendous amount of information included with this program. And I would strongly encourage you to look at the resources that are provided across many of the cooperator groups. Land Loss Prevention Project developed its own one-page website and a one-page flyer that we give out that condenses all the information into a handout as well. I know the Federation has done some stuff, but it is.
Danny, I have a question for you.
Sure. Hmm.
Land loss, like
Hmm.
we're predominantly in 7 states, right?
Right,
For
right,
this technical assistance.
right.
How is land loss working? Are you just working in North Carolina or are you working all over?
No, we've ended up working all over. Our primary focus has obviously been in North Carolina, but we were, for example, just doing presentations about 3 weeks ago in Indiana, and where were we? We were in Memphis, Tennessee.
Okay.
So yeah, so we've been all over South Carolina. We've got a sub cooperator working out of Florida. So, and actually, we bumped into you guys in a presentation in South Carolina about 2 months ago. So
I love hearing that.
there's a lot of us out there, and it's a good thing. But obviously, this program was meant to roll out in 3 months. It got extended, thank goodness. But it's just a tremendous amount of information and area to cover. So yeah,
I would agree. And then I'm going to let you get into your 10 steps because you're absolutely right that the online portal is the best. And then I just want to say, because I know a lot of the folks on the phone may be a little bit older, and you've
mhm,
also gone through this before.
right.
You know that there are so many different ways to submit this application. What Danny's going to do is show you the 10 steps, right?
Yeah.
But you can do it paper. You can have go into one of the many, which resources will be sent to you after this, or you can go into one of the many brick and mortar locations and do it there. And back to you, Danny.
Yeah, and just to harp on that point, one of the two biggest things when I'm doing this presentation with my colleague, Mr. Stefan Bowens, who's the actual attorney on staff, heading this up. We stress two things. One is we're looking for the narrative. The USDA is looking for the narrative, extremely important. Um, but the ability as to how you go about doing it, if you have to go the print route, then you got to go the print route. That's physically printing out with the PDF form and having to fill it out that way. But something we'll touch on possibly at the end or as the questions come up. There are 3 ways of submitting this application. One is in person at one of the locations that have been designated as a drop-off pickup location. The second thing is to mail it in, and then the third one is the online application. Just so that you're aware, we have made the online portal application the preferential way in which we are doing it. And so if you're, depending on who you're working with, this is the other thing, is you probably want to follow, get a little bit of word of advice, strong suggestion, is whichever cooperator group you are working with, we strongly suggest you follow the methodology or the process that they've developed to assist you, because it does vary a little bit from group to group. And so in our case, when we will work with you, but we strongly recommend that you utilize the online application. All right, so we'll jump into that. And the application is basically, they talk about 10 steps. Um, and there is a FAQ document which is available on the USDA website. I think it's about a 13-page document. It's FAQs, and it specifically outlines, you'll see some of the areas that we're going to talk about, but it specifically outlines these 10 steps. I've designated them down here. You can see about you, the applicant type. Then step 3 is the eligibility as a farmer rancher. 4 as a borrower. 5 gets into discrimination. 6 gets into losses. 7 prior claims, additional info, taxpayer info, and then finally signatures and certifications. So let's just go into this a little bit. This starts off as you get into the portal and you sign up. If you are signing up and you are going to do this by yourself, you will have to sign on to the USDA portal website. There's an address which I will give you for that, but it is a specific portal set up to do the online application. And before you even get into the 10 steps, there are these preliminary steps. There's an introduction, there's program eligibility requirements, and important info regarding the document requirements. These are the steps before the steps, if you will. And so these are the, you'll go down one foxhole and then you'll be down another foxhole. And sometimes this can get overwhelming. But just so that you're aware, there are these preliminary steps. I want to go right into what the FAQs, and you'll find this on the FAQs. These are the actual steps. And what I'd like to do is just cover these quickly so you know what they are. And then I want to go to the actual application. I've done part of this presentation looks at the application itself. So I just want you to get a feel for it and be comfortable with it, because whether you're working on this yourself or with your technical assistant provider, your cooperator, they will be utilizing this format, and these are the screens that they will be looking at. So the first thing, the step one, we'll get into about you information. Who are you? What if anyone, who is your representative and for what purpose? So you will designate this and you will talk about that and list that at the beginning of the application.
I have something to say here, Danny.
Sure, go ahead.
For a lot of the folks on the call, we've had questions about, which you're going to get to with eligibility, but it says, "Who are you?" Right?
Right,
It's a
right,
very telling question. It's not asking who's your father,
right,
who's your whatever. Why is this? We've had a lot of people step to us with wanting to do applications for family members who are deceased or
right,
family members who experienced discrimination, but this application is about you, right? It is about you and the discrimination that you experience in the farm service lending process. And there are a couple of exceptions, which I'm sure we'll get to, like if you inherited debt, but I wanted to stress the word, this is your discrimination financial assistance. It's
right,
not your great-great-grandfather's.
right, right.
Done.
So, and for purposes of time, um, what I'm going to do is literally just touch on so you're familiar with the application. I won't get into the details of the eligibility, the details of discrimination, etc. But what I will do is just walk us through what this online portal looks like and how these sections are set up. So as the questions come up, we may have to just go, dive a little deeper into some of that. But what I would suggest is let's try as much as possible just to kind of get through as much of the technicalities of filling out the application, because I think a lot of people are just mystified, and there's a lot of changes that have taken place, which I also want to make sure people are completely aware of. So on the details around what does discrimination actually look like, let's reserve that for some of the questions right at the end. I just want to make sure we get through the technical pieces of what this actually looks like online. So so step two, and this gets to what we're talking about here in terms of the type of applicant. What type of applicant are you? Are you a beginning farmer? Did you try to farm? Whatever the case may be. Co-borrowers, identify all co-borrowers in this section, if applicable to your loan. What entity members, provide your interest. So if you are part of an entity, a company, an LLC, whatever it is, you are providing what your interest is and what the members' interests are. And remember, you are applying individually. This is an individual application. And that's another thing you need to make a note of. I see Tandlin just nodding, and yeah, it's extremely important because people get lost in that. So if you're an entity, you are applying on your behalf, and any folks who want to derive any kind of assistance from this program, they need to do that in their own individual capacity. The last thing here is whether this is assigned or assumed debt, who is the original borrower, if not you. And that's a critical point, which we'll come to. But as you'll see with this application, it will not allow you to move forward unless you meet these requirements. Step three gets into the details for this program as a farmer or rancher, details of your farm, ranch, or forest. Step 4 is the eligibility, actual eligibility as a borrower or attempted borrower in the USDA Farm Loan Program. What type of farm loans did you try and get, or were you participating in, or still are participating in? And then if you have assigned or assumed debt, which farm program, again, is that referring to? And then step 5 starts to get into the meat of the application. What kind of discrimination did you or the original borrower experience? And then the details: when, where, why, and by whom. So the second part to this, let me just pull that up, is from step 6 to 10. Once you've described the discrimination, it has a specific section on the losses from discrimination for applicants who have operated a farm or ranch. What kind of loss was the result of the discrimination? And this is where it's extremely useful and helpful to have access to the cooperators and the technical assistants who can help you with that. Step 7 gets into any prior claims. Tandalin was talking about like pig-fed and any of the prior claims. You have to mention that. If you've been a part of that, you need to identify, and this section will allow you to do that. I will say this, part and parcel is, if you have received funds from that program, they have said that they will, if you have been determined to be a successful applicant on this, they will take into consideration those awards that you have received from any prior claim. So it doesn't stop you. It's just that they will take that into consideration, and so you may not get as much as you would have out of the program. But that being said, that's no reason why you shouldn't apply. Any kind of assistance or money that you can get, you should go after. The second thing, which we can highlight right now, is that this is not a first come, first serve, program. They will look at this after the fact, and then based on the number of successful applicants, they will then make a determination and allocate accordingly those funds to those successful applicants. Step number 8 is the additional information. It's optional. By the way, let me just mention here, and we'll touch on this again in the actual when we look at the application portal, but there are must or may documents, and make a note of that, because you must provide certain documents, and you may be encouraged to provide other documents. And this is where you would put that information in for the most part. Step 9 is taxpayer information. The IRS tax form, which you may be submitting, most likely a W-9. And then finally, the signatures and certifications. And then it's done. Now, let's jump into the actual application. So once you've signed up, and again, if you're doing this through a cooperator, they will be doing this on your behalf. So you don't need to know the nitty-gritty, but this is what, if you are doing it yourself, this is what you would be looking at. This is the dashboard for the application. And in the dashboard, you've got these key areas here where if you want to have a new application, this is where you would click on it. If you want to review the application, this is where you would click on it. And then if you wanted to download the application at any point in time, you can click on it here, and it would create a saved copy, which you can then send to your cooperator or to the person assisting you in the event that you yourself are filling out the online application. And again, from the navigation down below, this, if you click on this, it'll take you back to the application dashboard. You can save the document. It automatically saves it as you are going along, and then you would go to the next page. So just pointing this out because you'd be surprised. Some people just get totally lost in here, but just wanted to highlight how they've set this up. Now, if you then move on into the application itself, remember, now we're looking at the application, and you can see here, I want you to pay attention to this. They've done a really good job of keeping you informed of where exactly you are at in the application. And from here, for those 10 steps, remember I said we start off with 3 of these steps that you initially have to go through. Then you get into the various steps. and it will not allow you to move through to the next section unless you've completed each one of these sections. And then it will tell you and highlight where you have missed information. This is the difference between the online application and then when you're doing it in just the regular PDF that you download. You don't get all these prompts. Everything is not right in front of your fingertips, and visually you can see everything that is going on. So this is extremely useful. This sits on the left-hand side, and it tells you exactly where you are. So as you come in, it's the introduction. You have to sign off on this. I have reviewed the application, instructions, and FAQ. It then gets into the program eligibility requirements. Number one, have you experienced discrimination prior to January 1, 2021? That's the first big thing. And or are you currently a debtor with assigned or assumed USDA farm loan debt? And then it says, if you do not meet at least one of these requirements, you're not eligible to apply. And so you click on that and you say, yes, I've looked at that. I believe I do apply. I do qualify. And then you start to get into the important information. So this will say, it'll tell you the files need to be in PDF format, send documentation separately. So these are details before you actually get to the steps. And so a lot of people get in and they get lost because they've only been told about the steps and then they did not know about this part. So this is why I'm going to a little bit of pain here to explain what's coming prior and what this actually is looking like. Again, we're in the actual portal. This is or screenshots of the portal. So this is what it looks like. So this is the final thing here about important information regarding documentation and what's requested, what's required. Let me just say this while I'm thinking about it, because this is an important development. Up until November 3rd, you could request documents from the USDA. And there was a certain email that was available that you could request documents for. And even in the latest, so some of you, I want to just make sure you're fully aware of this. I just picked up applications that were dropped off. This was the last set of applications that were dropped off. And the date on that for this FAQ was last updated on 11/29/2023. And in that, they say that you can still request documents by emailing the email listed on this document. That is no longer the case. There is a new updated document from 12/14/2023, where you now have to go to the local FSA office to request that if you have any records. So, Candlin, I know you have a question. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'd like to interject because we are going to, because this is the great, like, we've not had anybody come on and show us the online thing, but I want to stop for a second and see if anybody has any questions while I share just a few things. We have had a lot of folks kind of wait on their documents, right? They're waiting to get back word from FSA. They're waiting for this and they're waiting for that. Here's my message to everybody on this call. Don't wait. The entire application, no matter how you're doing it, was designed so that you could just go through, because the point of the application is for you to tell a story, right? And for that story, for what you experienced or how you were harmed due to your discrimination, you are submitting this to get anywhere from $0 up to $500,000. The deadline is a hard January 13th, right? And I know that we have a lot of folks on the line who did put in for information. The reality with the USDA is that they had a 7 to 10 year record retention schedule for most of their offices. What does that mean to you? Well, if the discrimination that you are, putting in your application happened in 1973, the year I was born, then that's longer than 10 years ago. They may or may not have it. And you are waiting for something that if you keep waiting, you might not submit. they've also worked through, which I'm sure we're going to get to, is that if you don't have those specific records, then perhaps you can do, is it an affidavit where you go and you speak with your neighbors or people who saw you trying to farm and you go that route? Full stop. Back to Danny.
Yeah. No, great. And so this is extremely important. So, and the thing I want you to concentrate on here is what Tandlin was saying, that at the end of the day, this is about your story. So yes, there's a lot of additional info. If you can get that together, great. We're going to strongly encourage you to do that. But if you cannot, for whatever reason, get to that information, this is still good enough to submit the application. The last part, I hope we'll touch on this, is how these are going to be evaluated, because this has been a bone of contention as to us not knowing specifically how these will be evaluated. We're going to talk about that a little later. But to just keep us moving through this, let's get into the actual application itself. So this is still in the documentation section. So we haven't even entered step one. So here's step one. And again, we're just going to go through this very, very quickly. Let me back up 1 second. I went a little too fast there. And in step one, about you, you're going to enter in your information here. And it's made up of these three things: your personal info, the alternative contact, and your assistance provider. That's the main thing in the step one about you. Now, look to the left here. You'll see as you're working on, if it's incomplete, it will tell you. And you may not be able to move through on a particular section unless that section is complete. So, and it will tell you exactly which area is missing and where you need to provide information. The supporting documents request, this is where it is one of the must-have documents. Again, this is clearly laid out through the FAQs, through this document, through the checklists, but this is the supporting documentation. So some form of ID, and then it says here you must provide at least 2 acceptable forms of identification. And when you're providing documentation, keep all the originals. You just send in copies of that. Let's keep moving forward. Finally, it will ask you, you must provide proof of Social Security or your individual taxpayer identification number, otherwise known as ITIN. And whichever form, this is just checked off because I'm just trying to demonstrate something, but you would just check off here which one is you're going to provide. And then information about alternative contacts, it will ask you about that in there. So those are the supporting documents. This is on the FAQ. Those are the details around that, the about you information section. We're just going to keep running on this. Now we're going to go past this on information on somebody helping you fill out the form. This is just the detail of that. And as you can see there, it says the type of helper. Is it a lawyer? Is it another legal representative, etc.? Quick mention about you do not need a lawyer. This is free, a free program. You should not have to pay for any technical assistance in this program. So be careful of scams of people trying to get money from you. In step 2, we're now looking at the type of applicant, okay? Whether, are you a co-borrower? Information about the entity, is it assigned or assumed debt? Those are the types of things that are in this particular section. And in here, you will see it says, please be advised, and it'll ask you, are you doing this as yourself? And I was the only USDA farmer. Am I a co-borrower? So these are very, very specific questions which you respond to. Going into step 3 for eligibility as a farmer or a rancher. Again, have you ever been a farmer or rancher? Yes or no? Or, yes, fill out part A below if you have ever been a farmer or rancher. No, fill out part B if you intend to become a farmer or rancher, but were unable to do so because you were discriminatorily denied access to a USDA farm loan. Or if you were a farmer or rancher, here, did you own or did you lease? So again, these are very clear, and it will tell you when you're going through this which which part to act, and if you miss out something, it will not be there. You don't have that luxury when you're filling out the principal forms. So again, it's helpful if you're working with a cooperator who's using this and they are just asking you very specific questions, which they are entering in here, and it just makes it a lot easier. So again, just strongly recommending that you work with cooperators if you can. Moving on, as part of the eligibility, these are the subsections in here. Filling out Part B, if you intended to become a farmer, were you unable to do so because you were experiencing discrimination? And then it says, as you can see, it says for applicants who are or were farmers or ranchers. And then Part B is for applicants who never farmed, but who would have been, because there are a lot of folks that fall into that particular category. So here it is, spelling it out, and it's in the application. Still with the step 3, I'm just going to keep moving. Step 4 is the eligibility for this program as a borrower or attempted borrower. So specifically as a borrower or attempted borrower. And you will go through and answer those specific questions in there. Again, and if you were the original borrower and you participated in direct lending, answer the following questions. It says here, how many farm loan numbers will you provide? And the drop-down menu. So if you have one farm loan number, you'll put in 1. If you have two, but just make sure you're supplying that, and you also supply those farm loan numbers. And then if you are attaching documents, you would you can attach a certain number of documents with the application, which is extremely useful. You can add those to this application. And if you need to provide additional documentation, you can do that. And you have up to 2 business days after the application is submitted, including last day, which is January 13th, 2024. That's the last time you can submit the additional documents. And we'll get into that a little bit, but I just wanted to show you where this really starts to come into focus. And if you are providing additional information or additional documentation, this is where it starts to happen.
And I did want to say here that we have 20 minutes left.
Okay.
And I know we still have several sections to go through. And everybody, please put your questions in the chat. But we do want to hit to step number 10. So I'm going to be quiet.
Let me just move through this. As you can see, we're on step 4, still talking about the eligibility section. And yeah, it gets into some of the specifics about total amount of the USDA farm loan during that period. So very, very detailed. Step 5, the basis of discrimination. So this is where you get into the actual, the nature of this discrimination, what you're identifying as, if it's race, what was the nature of it. So it is very, very detailed, and this is where we're saying, if you can utilize assistance, please go ahead and do so. This section is the losses. You'll probably have to do a separate, provide separate information on that. We do a spreadsheet that we attach. These are prior claims, complaints, and appeals. This is where, for example, PigFed, you would list that if you were a participant in that. And moving on here, step 8, any additional information? It's asking you, are you going to provide any additional information? It then gets into taxpayer, step 9, taxpayer information. I am providing for example, I am providing a completed IRS W-9 form. You will list that. And then finally, you get to the signatures and certifications. And there are several ways to submit that. You can do that. It could be an image that's attached. You could use the online signature, or you could do an affidavit, which shows the final page. And then the summary of documents section, it's part of the application. It will list out all the documents that you said you were going to supply, and then you would cross-reference this list, and you'd be able to see, if you had provided everything. And then finally, you have the submission, as you can see here, confirmation email. When you submit, you will receive an email from this address, and it will have a confirmation number. Another advantage to doing the online portal is that you will have an immediate confirmation number which you can reference, and you will also automatically be notified through the portal. If you're using some of the other means, it'll come through mail. And so with that, that's the application confirmation ID. When you go back to your dashboard, that's where it appears. And so, Tanlin, in the interest of time, I'm going to stop right here and let's entertain questions.
And you never know, we might pull something slick here around Christmas and have you back, because a lot of people are doing that. And I'm going to start by saying a few things. Where do I want to start here? Even though I do have a question. One of the first things that I want to say, and I want to just highlight. You have to prove and tell the story about your discrimination and how it harmed you, right? That is very, very important. This is a 40-page document. If you're doing it, just writing it out on your hand or on the application, it's 40 pages long. There's a lot of redundancies in there, but what we feel, and I sit on many cooperator calls, is that they're just looking for you to be consistent with your story. So check it out. I want to say this. So if you say in 1973, I tried to buy a tractor, I stepped into blah, blah, blah FSA office, and I felt like I was mistreated. I felt like this and I felt like that, right? So then your supporting documents should be about what you did to try to farm. Like, I I paid on this so that I could get my credit right to purchase a tractor. I was going to utilize that tractor to grow. I am not a farmer, and you guys are going to tell in a second, to grow corn. And that tractor was valued at $40,000. I thought that year, had I gotten the loan, I would have been able to earn X amount of dollars. And there are all sorts of records. And the reason technical assistance is being provided is because that's what we're helping with, right? At the Federation, and like you said, everybody has a system. Yes, we do the online portal, but when we give a session, what we do, if it's an in-person session, this is online. What we do is we ask a series of questions to get you thinking about your story. Because if you had all of the documentation, you were 100% ready, it would still take 2 to 4 hours. So, and I'm saying this because we're sitting on, what is today, December 20th, right? We're getting ready to go into what is it, Christmas, and then the New Year's. Then people come back to work on January 3rd or whatever date they're doing. If you have not gotten started, get started. Before you step to a cooperator, think about the discrimination that you've experienced. Think about, do I have any proof for that? What were you trying to farm? When were you trying to do it? Who saw you doing it? Because I want to highlight that when, looking at this portal and all of this, which this is the easiest way to do it, but we already know that some people can't go this route. That's why they're coming to a cooperator, and we do it for you. But you must, you must, you must think about what happened and the financial impact that it had on you and go from there. So now to our first question, and I'm going to give this one to you, Danny, and I'll support it if I need to. It's from someone who's anonymous. My question is in regards to the plans after submission of application. If it is proven that discrimination occurred, what happens next? How will payout amounts be determined? Based on what criteria? When will program payouts occur?
So very quickly, so as we now know, there is a maximum limit of 500,000 in terms of an individual payment. So you can receive anything up to 500,000. So the original date for this program to close was in October. The USDA said that by Christmas, they were hoping to make payments. Those payments will be coming directly from the national administrator, and there is a national administrator, and Tanner, we can get into that a little bit if you want, but the national administrator will be making those payments. And it seems as if this will be done literally within months, and it will be a single payment check. So you're talking about a very quick turnaround. They are supposed to have this done very quickly. It'll be evaluated very quickly by the national administrators. By virtue of the way the act has been written and come down, USDA is not involved in at least at the initial levels, but there is evaluation criteria. And as I mentioned, it is a little bit of frustration for us as cooperators because it has been a black box in terms of how they're going to evaluate these programs and who's going to be evaluating it. But rather than get caught up in that, we're saying just make sure you get the application done as best as possible and complete the application. Make sure it meets all the requirements, and hopefully you will be successful and get an award. There is no set amounts. There are no set amounts, right? So,
right, you could apply and get $0, right? You could
right,
apply and get $10,000.
right.
You know, and I'm going to talk for just a second here before we move into our next question. And it was lost my train of thought. We've had quite a number of people reach out to us because they had already engaged a lawyer, right? They'd already committed 33% of a payout that they may or may not get. And then I'm going to just briefly go over the kind of how this program is structured. And it is on the websites, and you'll get this all in a follow-up email. But check it out. If you have engaged a lawyer, it is up to you if you want to disengage that lawyer and go the free route, right? However, at the Federation, we are asking that you give us something in writing to say, because these are all liabilities. And, we gotta, my mother's a very nice woman, but I imagine that if $500,000 was on the line, she would get pretty upset when it's all said and done. The way the program is structured is the USDA who recognizes that it harmed people through discrimination, their ability to farm. What they did was they have 8 cooperators on the ground. We're one, so is the Land Loss Project. Then there's a regional hub, right? There are 2 of them. And one handles all of the states east of the Mississippi, and one handles all of the states west of the Mississippi. So what we as cooperators are doing is providing technical assistance to fill out the application. The hubs have that capacity as well, but then they are screening the applications. And what does that look like? All of those steps that he went through. So you can't get paid if they don't have your right address. If you were going to receive a payout, but you did not submit a W-9, then they're going to go back. And that's why all of that about you information, I believe with Section 1, is so important, because we've had a lot of people get something called cure letters. And those letters are just feedback. They're not getting to the integrity of the discrimination claim. They're not making a judgment on the claim. They're just saying, hey, we see you fill this out, and it looks like you're missing something that we need to evaluate your request for financial assistance. And that is something that is going to go on through January 13th. I believe the cure process has up to 21 days. So even if you submitted an application on January 13th and you get a letter that says, please fill out your W-9, or you miss the name or the percentage of something if you filed as an entity. These are just like tiny things. They're not the total story. So first you've got your cooperators. You can also submit by yourself. You can go to other entities. You can do this almost however you want. But what we're recommending is that to take the free help of people who have been trained. And if you saw Danny step through this, it is so simple. But you may need help getting through all of these steps, right? And that's what we're here for. So from us, it goes to one of the two regional hubs, and they make kind of a first line decision on the application. Is this good? Should I pass it on to the administrator? The administrator, as he mentioned, is going to be the group, the entity that determines the financial payout of the check. If you're going to get $0, whatever, that is not being determined by the cooperators, the regional hubs, or the USDA. And I want to say that we've got 3 questions. So now let's move on. And I'm always going to give it to you first, Danny.
Mhm.
Our farm, and this question is from Cheryl Jackson. She says, our farm is in Oklahoma. We've made several appointments for technical assistance, but have yet to connect with anyone. We have completed our application, but wanted someone to look at it before we submitted it. Is there a location we can go to, or a list of different organizations that we can go to connect? You get it. She wants to know, where can she go? So Annie.
So I will, and Tandlin, you tell me differently. I will include a list, including ourselves, of cooperators. That may be your first port of call, or you may want to contact either Analytics Acquisitions or Windsor Group. I don't know if they tried to contact any one of those groups. But you have several options. You can go to the website, the USDA website. There is a 1-800 number there that you can contact. They will possibly put you in touch with someone. But I would strongly advise you to work with one of the cooperator groups. And some of them are closing their doors because they've got a process application. So you need to do this quickly. I know on LLPP, we're doing it literally on an individual basis right now because we've got to process applications. Tandlin, I don't know where you guys stand with it, but yeah, get in touch with us. Short answer, get in touch with us, but we can't promise anything.
So, Cheryl, you will get a follow-up communication if you haven't already got it. There are websites. Danny, if you can stop sharing your screen for a second. There are websites galore. I'm gonna put here in the chat. And dismiss. So one of the websites that I'm putting up, this one is the USDA's website, 22007 apply.gov, right? And I might take you guys there for a quick second. So almost everything that was discussed just now, it's over there too, right? So this is that website. And Cheryl, I'm speaking directly to you as I say this. So the program overview, are you eligible? All right. Somebody's trying to get in, but let's see.
I'll deal with that.
Okay. How do you apply? Resources, the stuff that he was mentioning about the FAQs. This is if you have to go it alone, right? If you have to go it alone and just get it in. And plenty of people have chosen to do that. They're technologically savvy, they're sure about their stories. With us as a federation, we're either doing your application or not. So to look over it is the same thing to us as doing it if we're going to sign our name to it, because we look at it like we've got a staff of 28 trained people across our 7 states, and this is about liability. So if we're going to look at it, it's going to take us as much time to look at it as to go over it. So what some people are doing are bringing to our locations or going through, which you will get. That's why I'm not going to spend too much time putting too much stuff in the chat, because you're going to get it. But you'll get a follow-up to this email that if you wanted to use us, you could take the first step. Like other cooperators, we are evaluating what is our last day. Is that going to be on January 13th or something sooner? Because if you remember, what I said earlier was that it's 40 pages. That's number one. Number two, if you had everything together, it would still take 4 to 6 hours. This is not something that you can wake up on January 13th and just get started doing. If it was me, I would spend my Christmas doing it because if it's valued at $500,000 that I could get in financial assistance, it's kind of a chunk of change there, right? It might be worth some eggnog and staying up a little late, but listen to what I'm saying. This is a great website if you were trying to go it alone. You will be sent cooperator information. You'll be sent this recording. Cheryl, I hope I answered your question. And now let's see what else do we have.
Yes, you did. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. She put a big old thumbs up. Thank you. Love those. And now we have a question from Edward Jennings. How can I be sure that my paper copy application is legible when evaluated? Will my original copy be used or will a scanned copy be used? I'm going to take this one and I'm going to punt it to Danny. Edward, that is a great question, but if I had any sort of in my head that somebody couldn't read my handwriting, I would give a call to one of these numbers. Our number is 1-888-533-3271. If you signed up for this Zoom session, you will get our number, you'll get the USDA's number. Because this is being hosted that my guest is land loss, I haven't done it yet, but I'm gonna put their number up in there, especially because they're in North Carolina, which is a state that we are not offering technical assistance in. Big deal, right? Because you got to go someplace. For the Federation, we've been sending them on to the regional hubs or to the USDA. But Edward, my answer to your question is I would take my paper copy, go sit with the TA provider and have them enter that into a computer. And plus, it's also a great way for them to assist you with your story in case there's something that you might have missed while you still have time. What do you have to say to that, Danny?
Yeah, I would absolutely agree with you. If you can get that typed in properly, because the last thing you want to be doing as an evaluator is trying to figure out, handwritten copy. So strongly encourage you to do exactly what Tanlin has suggested.
All right, it is 1:02, and I do have an appointment to go to, but I'm going to take because I have just 2 more questions, it looks like. So we're going to take this question, the next question, then we're going to tell you about our next Zoom meeting, which is they happen every week at this time, but here we go. And then we're off the Zoom for today, right? But here's the question from Presdelane Harris. I hope I pronounced that correctly. She says, and I hope, okay, saying, I'm the administrator of my mother's estate. Her father was a Black farmer who experienced discrimination. She inherited her share of his farm. Reading. Can I apply and show the discrimination my grandfather faced? Danny, what are you thinking?
I mean, it really comes down to, is there assigned or assumed debt that was part of it? And, the hard facts of the matter are, if you cannot show that there was assigned or assumed debt, you cannot apply on behalf of like a deceased. It has to be assigned or assumed debt for a specific FSA loan program. So,
And I'm gonna concur with him, because when he was first going over like step one and filling out the application, and the question was, you experienced, right? You. So in your lifetime, what happened to you? And like he just said, if you assumed that grandfather's debt, then that's another scenario, and then you're eligible. The very last question at 104 is, will we have access to this recording after this meeting? And here is my honest answer: yes, but it's not going to be directly afterwards. I actually have 2 or 3 Zooms to put up before this one, and so I'm gonna try to go in order, but by Christmas Eve, I'm hoping to have all of the Zooms that I can post. Sometimes if information is too personal, I don't post those. So it has nothing to do with the information being shared. It's just I don't want that on YouTube. At the end of the day, I want to thank you, Danny, for you showed up at short notice today, and I want everybody to know that this man pulled a fast one. And he has just given us a great presentation, kind of on a last minute notice. So I, as a fellow cooperator, I want to thank you for that.
you're welcome.
Then and tell Savvy, who could not, Savvy is the executive director of the Land Loss Prevention Project in North Carolina, that we thank her very much for her efforts and for allowing you to talk with us today. And folks, I think with that, you're very welcome. Somebody says thank you, super helpful. Um, you will get an email within a day or so. I hope to have it out by Saturday, with a lot of links in it for you to connect to. It'll have phone numbers in it. It'll have this, that, and the third in there. And please reach out. We also, as a federation, have an email address that the communication will be coming from there. But we are here to help you. But as he stressed, some cooperators are pulling it in because they've got enough applications and they take so long that there just has to be a cutoff so that they can complete who's in queue, so that they can be submitted by January 13th. So I'm just encouraging everyone on this call, if you have not made a move, make it. And with that, yeah, make that discrimination financial assistance move. And with that, I hope everybody has the happiest of holidays, and we'll see you. I'm pretty sure we will be back next Wednesday, same time, 12 noon Eastern. Thank you.
Take care, Tandon.